Today we're creating a battle map, which is mostly an open forest camp, but it also bleeds into a good old-fashioned cave lair. Designing this map was certainly trickier than most because designing the mix of exterior and interiors on one map isn't the simplest thing to figure out, but I really like the solutions we conjured up. Before it became a forest/cave battle map though, the map started out as just your standard forest combat, where like an absolute maniac I would just start without even knowing what the party were going to be fighting, so we'd need to figure that out.
Okay, so I've just sort of blasted into this. What monster do we want to have? Does anyone have like a monster suggestion that they want to throw down? Obviously it can be homebrew or anything like that. But if we're going to make a monster, like a map for a monster fight, let's try to think of something specific. Owlbear. An owlbear could be good. An owlbear definitely could be good. I think it definitely goes into the forest theme. And I think owlbear is also like, it's probably not too intense of a monster, you know? Like, because this is just like a bunch of fucking farmers. So it's like, why would they be able to like slay like a dragon? Like, they're not going to be doing that. An owlbear, difficult to kill, most deaf, shout out, good artist. Yeah, like 3 CR, like I think that's probably the level of like a pretty strong regular NPC could take, right? And they are classic, absolutely. They're probably going to be able to beat an owlbear. So I think we could have like an owlbear as like the boss, and then like maybe some other characters. So we could do something like gnolls are like the smaller enemy, and there's like 4 gnolls and like an owlbear, something like that. And that also is like an interesting dynamic where it leads to a situation where it's like, maybe they don't have to kill like every single one of the enemies here. Like they just need to kill the owlbear and then, I don't know, get the head of the owlbear or whatever. And then the fight is done. Or like the gnolls will run off if the owlbear is killed or something like that.
We would eventually end up homebrewing off these suggestions, but the base here is that an owlbear-esque creature knows it's going to be hunted because it's the tradition of the nearby town. So it recruits the help of some gnoll-esque creatures to give it some extra protection. I think this leads to an interesting dueling combat style for the party, but for our map making, it would create the opportunity for an interesting combination of architecture and natural scenery. While I was trying to figure out an owlbear's nest, chat would remind me that cave lairs are what they often call home. This would spur the idea of combining a forest map and a cave map together.
Because it's like, it could be interesting to have like the gnolls outside as like a protective unit, and inside we have an owlbear, and the party can like maybe sneak past or whatever and kill. I don't know how I'm gonna combine those two things, but the adventure begins. Now, cool. How are we gonna fucking make a cave? He said with venom for no reason.
Pretty quickly, I figured out how I would want to approach this.
So it's gonna be very hard to indicate the overarchingness of a cave. So I think it's gonna have to be like representative that the cave begins, and we can build the walls of the cave. And then we can have the texture of the cave, but we're not gonna have the roof on the cave because that would obscure the insides. I think that's what we're gonna do.
Being an absolute champion though, Definitely Not Chaos would send over a similar style design for inspiration.
Awesome. No, this is good inspo. They do an upstairs and a downstairs. Interesting.
While I really like the 2 maps idea and think it's something to try in the future, I wanted to commit to making it work on just the 1 map, and when I saw the cave entrance stamp, I knew this would make it a lot easier, as this stamp could do the heavy lifting of indicating that everything behind it is inside the cave, something that would have been much harder to show if I had to create my own cave entrance using a collection of rock stamps or something. With the cave's gaping mouth in place, I'd go placing the walls, but they were strangely intersecting with the cave's entrance stamp because of the angle I wanted the cave to be. I tried filling in the gap with some big rocks, but it looked off. Awkward Twilight would pull the classic move of their first ever chat message being a hot suggestion.
Awkward Twilight. Hello. What's up? Nice of you to join. Put small rubble instead of big rocks.
Something would workshop a bit more, eventually lowering the opacity as suggested by chat, which ended up looking really good. As we kept putting the walls of the cave, incarnate texturing and stamp system was causing a very strange and, in this case, entirely undesired effect.
And once again, why the fuck is there all this like green random texturing coming through? What is going on? I don't want that to happen.
In the past, I might have been tempted to push through, but I knew the grass was going to annoy me, and although I'm sure there is a solution, I couldn't find it, so I knew it would be easier and faster just to start again, before we foolishly persevered too far and got to a point where restarting would be totally off the cards. To make the cave have more cave energy, we'd add a whole bunch of shadow, and to make the cave entrance express this more, I'd use a feature I'd never touched before.
Maybe I do something fucking crazy that I've never done before. It's gonna be absolutely insane. I'm gonna use color. Oh my god, I'm out of my mind. Yeah, okay, I think that works.
I'd add some shadow to the walls, which was a nice effect, but it wasn't enough.
I think this is okay. I think it probably needs to be a bit more shadowy. And I think shadows, like trying to lean on shadows specifically, might not be the best solution. Maybe we need to lean on like darker textures. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make everything this dark brown, which honestly I just like better as a color. I'm feeling better about as a cave. We keep the gray in the walls. What we can go do is like a really low level of this, so it's just a little bit darker. And then, as you suggested before, maybe we just go through with the black texture itself. And we really highlight the shadow. And then on top of all of that, what we can do is then we'll just go across the entire cave with black. I think that gets across the energy of shadow a lot better.
I maybe could have played around with the lighting some more, but this combination of textures and effects was looking pretty solid, so I was pleased with how it landed. It was then time to step back into the light and focus on the outside. I kicked off by adding some spiky fence things. I think this gets the energy of the enemy across while also creating thin choke points, something a little different from most standard forest camp maps, possibly promoting some more interesting combat, especially as the players are trying to break through this line to get to the owlbear in the cave and aren't required to kill these gnoll protectors. Similarly, I wanted these gnoll-like enemies to have a sense of bandit camp about them, so we added some tattered tents and a campfire. We'd also add some paths as well to show they've been here for a while, and all of a sudden the camp was coming together. This would be improved entirely by chat suggesting some more camp-esque accoutrements.
Fallen log or a water source. Yes, that is an awesome idea. Yeah, we can definitely have a couple logs. I think, what can we do for a water source? They're probably not outwardly going to have a well, but we could just straight up have like a little lake here. Like they could just be like a little pond or whatever. I think that looks good. I think that looks good. And we'll add a little water, whatever, a little fallen log in a sec. But let's have this little like pond here next to this cave, because that would make a lot of sense for like an owlbear to like wanna... Tree, get the fuck out of here with your trunk. What is that noise? What are you doing? You maniac. Let's get these, I guess. Yeah, I think this is bringing the dynamic we want onto the map. There we go. So we're going to put some fronds like that, some fronds like that. And then we can put maybe like a lily pad. Lily pad? Do they have them? I don't think so. Not from this perspective. Oh no, this is the stuff I'm talking. Yes, they do have it. I lied when I said I don't think they have them. It was a trick. It's called pranks, bro. Like seriously? If you have a problem with it, take it up with the commissioner of life, because pranks is just how we get down here.
Continuing on our journey of adding depth and personality to the map, we'd add some weapons, some bones, some blood.
Yeah, I was definitely like bogged down in the worlds of the cave a little bit, and it took a while, and I think it's pretty good, and we've got the energy that those are like little beds, but definitely taking a second to go to the outside and deal with the little gnoll protective section and then come back to it, I think really helped spur the imagination of it. And you make some progress in a different area, you make that look good, and then when you go back to it, it feels a lot better. It is a policy I called out. I said this is probably going to be exactly what happens, and it is what happens, and you know, it feels good. It feels good to be making progress in the way that we are.
We'd finish up by adding a combat grid, and in Incarnate you can actually have the grid on a specific layer. So we'd use this to place it under the tree, something that made it look better and added that ever-desired sense of vertical depth. Which brings us to the end of the map, and I really like the way it turned out. There's definitely more to learn and experiment with when it comes to combining interior and exteriors on a single map, but for a first effort, I think it's clear what's going on, which I consider a great success. As far as the personality of the map, I think we did a good job of expressing the strange mix of an owlbear being protected by gnolls, and altogether, I think it's a pretty cool map, which should make for a really good encounter. And that's the video. If you've been either inside or outside, then subscribe to the channel and check out some of my other videos for other places one can be. Zoom over to the Patreon to support the channel and to get access to all these maps and every quest we make. Follow us on Twitch to do all this stuff live. Thanks for watching, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Bye!